we hardly very many of us go into a job where there's, it's more like sports where, well, I got to rely on my team, and that's very much there, but a lot of it is you got to do your own work. If I'm a cashier at Burger King, that was my first job. If I'm a cashier at Burger King, I'm not really relying on the chefs in the back to for me to do my part. And of course I need them to make the burgers and such, but there's a lot of, and you can still feel very alone when you get out into the business world.
Hey everybody, Daniel Moss here. This week on the show we have Joey Mascio. He is the founder of Sidekick to Hero, and I could not be more excited to introduce him to you, the company to you. I absolutely love what they're doing. This is not just some company who's like creating products just for kids. What he's got to say here, these ideas are for everybody. And so I want you to check it out. And I want you to let me know in the comments what you think about the episode. And if you have any questions or whatever, just put them in there. We'd love to hear from you. Any feedback or comments are always welcome. Enjoy the show. Well, very good. So, dude, it's been a little bit. So tell me about Texas. I know last time we talked, you were going to Texas. I do want to know about it.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. First off, great barbecue. I
Yeah.
landed, I realized I was 6 minutes away from Franklin Barbecue, that famous barbecue joint, and I went and there was no line, virtually no line. Usually it's around the corner. So it was like, it was fate, and was able to have the best brisket I've ever had. So that was great. And
Wow.
then the convention was really fun. There were a ton of people there. We were worried because of the recent floods in Texas. Obviously, we're worried about the families, but some of the vendors are like, "Well, man, I'm worried if that's going to make less people come." To me, it was one of the largest conventions that I've been to.
Okay. So yeah, when we met in Ontario, California at
All
that
right.
convention. Um, I was actually pretty blown away with I went on Thursday, which was the day where it was like free entry, right? You only got a
Right.
few hours, and it actually
Right.
kind of wasn't even enough for me, to be honest. The time flew by. There was a lot of really cool people there. And I was kind of bummed to see the time run out, but that seemed pretty big. So like the Texas one, like same kind of size or double, or
I,
what are we
I
talking?
mean, like I would say slightly larger than
Mhm.
California. California is big as well. I mean, the great homeschool conventions in general are bigger than most local conventions.
Mhm.
And so, and all the big names are there. That you got the Tuttle Twins, you got Adventure Trail Life, I think is what they're called. Talkbox dot mom, and Nicolene Peck, and all these other, like all the staples of the homeschool community are there at the GHCs. And so, yeah, this one was definitely, I would say, bigger than California.
Okay. So you've been how many of these have you been to, and like in your typical type like year or summer, or I think there's a mostly kind of like after the school year sort of ends, right? That's when they really fire up.
It's kind of spring to summer,
Spring to
like they
summer.
start back in April. I even went to one
Okay.
in March.
Okay.
And so I think I did about a dozen this year
Oh
conventions.
man.
I did
Dang.
three of the GHCs. Next year I'm signed up to do four of them. I added the Missouri one. And it's fun. I'm a people person, so I get energized talking to parents. My voice right now, if you can tell, it's a little raspier than usual because I was talking for 3 days straight and I gave a couple of different workshops. And so I love those conventions. They're great.
That's cool. What kind of workshops were you doing?
Well, I gave two this time around. I gave my Sidekick to Hero, which is like kind of my flagship workshop where I talk about how to teach growth mindset to homeschool kids, specifically teens
Yeah.
11 and up. And then I gave my Contention to Calm workshop, which is how to win the game of disagreements.
Okay. Wow. That's actually a really important topic, right? I mean, you got so many political things going on and different stuff like that. And we kind of created these general rules of thumb, like don't talk about that kind of stuff.
Right? Yeah.
Right? It seems a lot more productive to be able to have a disagreement and be able to discuss these things, even knowing that there is the potential of or the presence of a disagreement, right? That's interesting. That's interesting. Um, cool. So conventions are, I would imagine, a lot of work for you. They're a lot of work to, right?
Yeah, a lot of work, a lot of money, and people
Mm.
are always like, "Is it worth it?" And I'm like, you know what? I don't know yet. I
Nah.
mean, like math is hard to figure out because I'm not selling books, right? I'm selling a digital product,
Mm.
and they don't sign up right then and there, so I don't walk away being like, "Oh, look, that was very worth it." So I make a lot of contacts, a ton of
Mm.
people get on my email list, and then I just talk with them via email over the next several weeks and months and whatnot, and people. Uh, Sign up and they become part of the community and it's great. And so uh, the work is, I think, always worth it, even if I just get a couple to sign up. Uh, my my boss, who's my wife, she's the one who's like, uh, well, yeah, is it like monetarily worth it? And I'm like, you know what? I don't know yet. And right now, that's not my focus. I'm just kind of putting my faith and trust in the process and just working on becoming a known entity. Because whenever I meet parents, they're always like, dude, how did I not know you existed? And I'm like, well, that's what I'm out here doing. I'm
Yeah.
out here, getting in front of as many people as possible. So a lot of
Yeah.
work, totally worth it.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, when it's something you really believe in, when and it's something you're passionate about, it's kind of almost like not even work to some degree, right? I mean, I know some of packing up your stuff and driving out or flying out I know that's work. Don't get me wrong, but it takes on a different life of its own when it's something you're passionate about and stuff like that. So, it's a passion project at that point.
Yeah. I very
Are
much
you?
enjoy it. And also, I do get some time alone, which is nice. Like, I got 4 kids. I love them
Uh,
all and all that. But I was able to see the new Superman movie
oh yeah, there you go.
the night before it came out. And it was just me. I didn't have to worry about anybody else. I got my popcorn, my snacks. And it was kind of nice it's like a little mini vacay,
Yeah.
so which is nice. But,
You're preaching to the choir on that, man. I get that. Don't you? I'm not judging you. I trust me. I get that one. But what I do want is it Superman or Superman? Like, was it good or
oh,
what was it?
I enjoyed it. I
Did
know
you? Okay.
everybody's saying it was woke, and some people are
Okay.
talking about the
Okay.
tone. I really enjoyed it. I didn't see the express, woke lines that people were kind of worried about or getting political. I mean, yeah, if you wanted to make those connections, you could. But for me, it was just a fun ride. And from what I've seen from a lot of the audience feedback is that they all kind of agree. I think it's like at like 80 something percent on Rotten Tomatoes right now. But
Oh.
I'm
Mm,
a huge Superman fan. I don't know if you can see
yeah.
my background.
Oh yeah. I didn't catch that. Yeah.
Yeah, I got the popcorn tin sitting right
Okay.
there from
Okay.
seeing
Yeah.
the movie. I
Yeah.
walked through the airport with that, right? Because I didn't want it to get squished in my
That's
in my.
fun. That's awesome, man. Yeah. Superman's definitely the best superhero of all, man. I argue with my kids. My boys want to argue Spider-Man or Batman.
Batman. It's always
I,
Batman, right?
yeah, and honestly, he doesn't stand a chance. I'm sorry to to Superman. It's like not even a conversation. But and I don't care how the comics went. I don't care. That's not let's get real. Um, yeah. So you do all that stuff, and it's hard work. I would imagine there's probably when we start a business, we struggle with, I don't know about you, but I think unless you're Superman, I would assume this is true. You probably still struggle with a lot of self-doubt, right? There's a lot of times where you're like, right, and you're feeling like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I don't know if this is gonna work. Am I gonna sink my family? Are we gonna be living on the streets? um on and on and on, right? Like these can I am I any good? Can I persuade people of anything? Can I convince people that this is good? Can I, um, will I somehow botch this? Whatever. There's a million and one things that we can do to ourselves, um, in life. And I'm speaking right now, particularly about entrepreneurship,
Mhm.
but entrepreneurship is kind of life anyway, in a sense, right? It's about
Yeah.
serving other people. It's about, if you want to have a healthy business, you're gonna have to step out of your comfort zone. If you want to have a healthy life, you're gonna have to step out of your comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things about entrepreneurship that mirror life, mirror education, homeschooling, whatever it is. So, so I know I kind of threw a lot of things in there that you probably could like grab onto and talk, and I am okay with you taking the mic and running with that. I was definitely putting the ball on the tee, letting you take your swing at it.
Oh, good. I'm horrible at golf, but
Yeah.
I'm great at conversations. So I am Superman 80% of the time
Mm,
in my business, and then I'm Jimmy Olsen the other 20%,
yeah.
right? And that's kind of life. And like you said, entrepreneurship is it's like the authentic school is what it is.
Yeah.
We set up all these fake situations for our kids or not real when it comes to public school, first off. And I was a public school teacher, taught middle school for 6 years. And we're always, as a teacher, we're trying to create as authentic of a situation as we can to inspire them to learn. But the best we got, and sometimes homeschool families also do it this way as well, the best we got is, well, I guess homeschool families don't do grades, but in the school, the best we got is you got to do it for a grade. Yeah. If you do all this work and create this stuff and figure things out and fail and try and fail and try, you're going to get a grade. And if they don't care about their grade, right, then it's like, wah, wah, but that's as authentic as we can make it.
Mm.
Entrepreneurship is, hey, like what you're going to get from doing all this work is a livelihood, right? Like you're able to pay for your own stuff. And that is incredibly fulfilling and rewarding. And that connection to life, to real life, is why I also teach entrepreneurship and kind of financial literacy. I'm always talking about that with the kids in Sidekick to Hero because they go hand in hand, mental resilience and entrepreneurship. Uh, you can use, mental resilience and growth mindset to work for somebody else and be great and have that work very well. In fact, it's also important there because now you got a boss you got to deal with, but in entrepreneurship, it's just you, man. And a lot of life, especially for teens, it's just them. Nobody else can do their work for them. Nobody else can make friends for them, for them. They have to do these things on their own. They have to take massive action. And far too many teens and adults, but I always talk in sense of teens, far too many teens don't take the massive action because they have uh, unhelpful thought patterns about themselves specifically, or about the world, or about other people. And that stops them from having an entrepreneurial mindset, which is just a mindset that says, you know what? I can do anything. Let's go.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I couldn't agree more. Another thing too that kind of gets in the way. Well, unfortunately, it can be very true for homeschooling also, is that a lot of kids are so bogged down by schoolwork, like homework. Even a lot of parents, they're so hyper focused on like the sports stuff after school. So like their evenings are completely slammed. Their weekends are, when they're playing all their games and they're traveling all over the state or whatever it is, and it's just like the kid has no time to even think entrepreneurial. There's not even an option there. So that's unfortunate. A lot of times I see homeschoolers get like that a little bit too, where it's like there's so much like mimicry of what's going on in the public school system, that the advantages that they do have, what you're talking about, they're not generating those opportunities. They're not tapping into the advantage that they naturally have, which is probably going to be some of the best things that the kid can walk away with anyway, you
Yeah.
know? Um,
No, totally. And like, I love sports. I don't sports very much. I didn't sports in high school. I don't sports now. Um, but yeah, sports is good and has its own, stuff. I feel like you learn teamwork and you learn that stuff. That's a lot of experience, which is great to have. But yeah, entrepreneurship, I do think is just one rung above, uh, you know, doing T-ball and all the other things. And while there's no real team when a teen becomes a teenpreneur, I think that right there is more indicative of what real life's going to be afterwards, right? And you're like, well, if I don't want to carry the ball, isn't there somebody else to carry the ball for me? I'm kind of used to that in sports or something, right? And so again, they're both really good, entrepreneurship and sports. But
Mm,
I do think sometimes, it's definitely in public school, and definitely in homeschool, sometimes we we're not focusing on some of the things that is actually going to lead to great success in real life. Because I know a ton of kids that play sports who are still lacking self-confidence, who are still like, that's great, I can do sports, but their confidence in sports doesn't translate to almost anything else.
yeah.
And that right there is what they need to learn how to do. And that's the difference, the way I teach it, that's the difference between confidence and self-confidence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Self
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't want to interrupt you. Keep going.
No, no, I was just going to make sure like I explained the difference because some people are like, Joey, I don't get the difference. Confidence is the ability to be successful, to be good at something, and it's useless because we only have confidence in things we can already do. But self-confidence, that's the ability to fail successfully, which means I can fail and not take it personally. It doesn't tank my self-esteem. And if a kid is really confident on the field, but they don't know how to translate that over to working for somebody else, taking the SAT or ACT, or doing well in college, they don't get that. They don't know how to transfer that knowledge. Then they're not going to thrive. And sports eventually ends for 95% of kids. It's done, and they're like, okay, well, now what? I'm going to become an accountant or a mechanic or something. Shoot, man, I was just so much better at football,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. And so to me, like, that's what I want to teach. Have them in sports, but have them learn what true self-confidence is. And it's not being good at everything. It's learning how to fail successfully.
Beautiful. I was gonna go into that whole thing about failure, and talk about how schools, the whole thing, because you were talking about, hey, the best thing we can do is give you a grade, right? And that's the best we can kind of like, replicate real life skills or whatever, right? And give you these genuine opportunities, like, hey, here's a grade. And but the thing that's baked into that is there's also kind of like punishments baked into it too, that are, if you don't pass, if let's say you fail this year, you're held back with another grade. All kids that are like not really your friends, and now you're gonna have to get stuck in that class with them. And there's like a fear of failure that is kind of baked into the system. And I know it really affected me, to this day. Honestly, to this day, I I tend to slip into kind of a perfectionistic mindset, and I'm actively constantly having to kind of contain that, like recognize it, contain it, and replace that with a different thought, because it's so, and I can convince myself so easily, Joey, so easily, that no, this I need to do it this way because this is for them, this, and I could do this thing. But really, when people can point it out, it's crazy. I can convince myself of it so much. A lot of times I'll need my wife to just kind of, because it's like I'm so convinced that if I don't do it that way, I'm not delivering to the other people. But what ends up happening is that it's really perfectionism from the fear of failure. And it actually so often keeps me from ever doing the thing at all. And so how am I helping anybody when I'm not even stepping up to the plate, right? Because I'm wanting it to be perfect, but what is perfect? What even is that? So it's, anyway, I was definitely gonna connect that into school. And I wanted to, I mean, while I'm on that topic, I'd definitely like to hear your thoughts on that. And the reason why is because it does apply to homeschooling, again, in the sense that if we're replicating, school at home, homeschool, if we're doing that kind of thing, and and bringing that element into our home, and we're like heavily relying on testing and different things, like, these kinds of the school's tools, right? The tools of the school in our home, perhaps we're causing this. But I want to, I mean, you were a teacher, you understand mindset, you understand, you were just talking about, this need to, not be afraid of failure and accept failure. So, like, what are your thoughts on that? Does the classroom do that? What does this do to a kid? I don't know. Go for it. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, thankfully these days we don't hold kids back anymore, and that's maybe thankfully. But what just happens is they just go ahead not having any of the skills, right? So the public school, and I I'm not one of those homeschoolers because we homeschool our kids. I'm not one of those homeschool parents who fully bash on the public school system. It works for some kids in some scenarios, and it's kind of a necessary, not evil, but a necessary ineffective model that we need to have because not all parents can homeschool. Um, and so, but people will often argue for public school, well, it's teaching them resilience. And I go, no, it's not. It's teaching them math and writing and reading and science. It doesn't teach them resilience. All the only way resilience shows up in the majority of public schools is in banners and slogans and posters in the counselor's office, right? The little cat poster, hang in there, or we'll have the six pillars of character, right? Courage and whatever. And we might talk about that as we try to build the culture of the school, but there are no lessons on how to reframe thinking, on how to practice thought awareness and point out the difference between what is a fact in your head and what is a simple story, and especially a limiting belief that you can rewrite. They don't do any exercises on that. There's no time. We got to prepare them for test and test and testing and testing and testing, right? And that was kind of the stress of being a public school teacher. And schools would even buy giant curriculums. I remember my school in the last year I was teaching, they had bought this giant curriculum, um, this online thing that was going to teach growth mindset. They recognized, all right, we need one of these, but then they had it, and all they can do is turn to the teachers, the English teachers, which is what I was, and some of the elective teachers, and go, can you guys take 5 minutes of your class period and have them work on this? And every teacher was like, no, are you kidding? I only have 43 minutes with them anyway. I'm already feeling like we're behind. And so it never got taught. And then shortly thereafter, the pandemic started. So I don't know if they went back with that strategy again. But tying this now into homeschool, if you are a homeschool parent, this is my opinion, and you kind of talked about it too. If you are doing that, if you're like, all right, look, math, 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 right? Writing, 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 English, English, those things are important. But if you are not spending a good chunk of time with your kid learning confidence, self confidence, growth mindset, productivity, leadership skills, that ability to fail and keep going. If that is not woven into the fabric of everything that you do, then you're just mimicking what the school system is doing, but just at home. Because a kid who knows math very well, an English reading, writing very well. Those are usually the three core things, right? Reading, writing, arithmetic, right? If they know that very well, but they're not confident, they don't know how to fail, they don't know how to take massive action, they don't know how to be uncomfortable and keep going, they shy away from all those things, they're not going anywhere. I don't care how many fractions they can work with. It's irrelevant. They'll just be at home playing with fractions on a piece of paper rather than doing anything in their life. But if you switch that, a kid who is self-confident, a kid who knows how to fail and go, well, that I fail at that, I suck at that, let me keep going until I get it right. A kid who knows how to be a leader, and all those other soft skills, which is what they're called because you can't measure them. A kid who knows all those, but they're not very good at math, right? They just got like the basic math stuff down, but man, algebra and whatever, geometry and all that, they can read and write fine, but their handwriting, some parents will focus on handwriting, which to me should be moved to art, right? At this point, if you want to succeed. But if they got that basic lead down, they're going to be great if they have those soft skills of resilience, growth mindset, productivity, social skills. They're going to do great. And we all recognize people in life who are leaders, perhaps your boss, right? If you are someone who has a job, perhaps your boss is someone who you're like, man, they seem pretty dumb when it comes to some of the paper smarts, but they're getting paid way more than I am. And it's probably because they know how to they have interpersonal skills. They know how to persevere despite trials and obstacles. those skills are far more important. So homeschool parents, don't get bogged down with that feeling that, man, my kid is under grade level when it comes to reading or writing or math. Don't get bogged down too much with that. Really focus more on those soft skills.
Joey, I looked at the clock right now, and you know that clock is going way too fast for me. I have so many questions for you, my man. It's driving me crazy. Okay, since I looked at the time, and I want to respect the hour that you have. Okay, let's kind of shift because that's gonna be hard for me, but I want to shift just a little bit. It's not really, but it just away from some of these. There's a line of questions I want to ask, but maybe we can do it again some other day. We'll talk some more about some stuff. But okay, so do you have any advice for a parent, particularly homeschoolers, but it's not just exclusively to homeschoolers? How do they train this stuff? Like, and now, and it, don't feel like you have to give away all your secrets if that's the kind of thing that I'm asking or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But like, do you have any practical advice? Because I think that's one thing that would be really useful to any parent listening to this right now. Because honestly, I would say, oh, let me say this real quick. I've said many times that I would rather in my life, or even in my kids' lives, I would rather them be able to hack it in the entrepreneurial world, right? And when I say that, I mean the ability to have interpersonal skills, like you talked about, to be able to delegate, right? That's a huge. Elon Musk doesn't know how to build a rocket. He delegated, right? Like he's delegating these things. He's smart. I'm not saying not smart. I'm saying he delegated. He's a master delegator, right? And he spends his time on just those, the 80-20 rule. He's on the 99.9 point versus the 0.1% rule. He's sticking to the 0.1, right? And everyone else is he's delegating and right. And I would rather my kids be a master of that stuff if I had to choose between them that doing that and knowing how to read and write. I'm picking the Elon Musk side all day long, and they can listen to audiobooks for all I care for the rest of their life, and have have AI or their secretary read to them, the document. I don't care. I
Uh,
so I'm coming from that perspective. How do you teach a parent, or what would you say to a parent who needs to teach these types of things to their child?
Yeah, I don't mind giving away all my secrets. Like I'm going to tell everything that I can in the time that we have. So essentially, look up cognitive behavioral techniques. It's also often called cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm not a therapist, but I am certified in CBT coaching, so cognitive behavioral techniques, which is the ability to question your mindset. That's where it starts. The first thing I work on with a kid is to get them to realize your circumstances are not creating your results, right? And so, I mean, Viktor Frankl teaches this in his logotherapy, which is his a version of psychology. I learned it from master life coach Brooke Castillo. She's a good one to look up. I also was trained under Jody Moore. These are just coaches who, is just in my kind of genre of coaching. And they essentially teach that our circumstances trigger our thoughts, and our thoughts is where our feelings come from. And the feelings we feel is what drive our actions. And the actions we take give us our results. And that's called the self-coaching model, is those 5 words: circumstance, thought, feelings, actions, results. And when you know that, then you can plug anything in your life into that. And this is what teens need to learn how to do. I'm getting a result I don't like right now. Maybe it's my relationship with my younger sibling. Maybe it's my relationship with my schoolwork, whatever it is, with money. I'm getting results I don't like. The best thing for a kid to realize, it's not your sibling's fault. It's not the schoolwork's fault. It's not the bank's fault or your boss's fault. If you take 100% ownership over your results, then that means you can take 100% of the actions to change your results. And most kids don't do that because they feel stuck. Well, I would have more friends, Joey, but I'm homeschooled. I've had some kids that I've coached in my private clients tell me that. Well, I would, Joey, but I'm homeschooled. So I'm like, how many co-ops? No, we don't go to co-ops. I'm doing, whatever. And I'm like, ooh, like right there, that seems like, well, his circumstance is he's homeschooled. He stays at home all day, and he doesn't even meet any other kids. So therefore, Joey, there's nothing I can do. I'm like, well, if you believe that, then how does that make you feel? Well, it makes me feel hopeless. Yeah. And if you're feeling hopeless, what do you do when it comes to making new friends? Well, nothing. There's nothing I can do. Exactly. Which gives you the results of you're not making any new friends. But if you realize, ooh, hold on, that thought that there's nothing I can do isn't a fact. And I spent a lot of time working with kids on separating facts from stories and going, okay, hold on. Like a story is just a collection of thoughts, and a fact is 100% like everybody would agree on it 100%. Like there's a microphone in front of you, there's a microphone in front of me, right? Those are facts. I do not have any hair on my head right now. That's a fact, right? But my interpretation of said microphones or my bald head, those fall into story. And
Yeah.
so when a kid is like, there's nothing I can do, I'm like, that's a story, bro. Like you are just choosing to believe that and it's keeping you more stuck. I call that a sidekick thought. My business is called Sidekick to Hero. And I call that, dude, that's a sidekick thought. And sidekick thinking is going to get you sidekick results. And a sidekick is different from a victim. A sidekick is on the hero's team, which means they have the same goals as the hero, but they just don't believe that they can do it. And when a sidekick realizes, you know what, I I could make new friends. It's possible. Or even what if it's possible? Use those words. What if it's possible for me to make new friends? Now they start getting curious and creative, which is a much better mindset and feeling to approach making new friends with. And then they start coming up with ideas. I had a kid I was coaching, like, you know what? They're actually, my community center has things and after school clubs that I don't think you even have to be a part of a school in order to go to, right? Like I can sign up for that after school club. I can sign up for these jujitsu classes or whatever, pottery making. Like there are things in my community that I can do, things in my church that I could attend, right? Whatever it is. And now they start becoming creative and they start getting out there. Or they just start going, well, I see these kids always at the local playground, but I'm afraid to talk to them. Right there, dude. There's a bunch of kids out there. Go and introduce yourself. Right? That is something you can do. And that right there is how you get a kid to recognize that what they're getting in life right now is all on them. And when they start wanting to go into shame, oh, well, that means I'm just horrible. See, no, 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 no. Don't let it create shame. Oh, it's all my fault. I love it when things are my fault because that means I can fix them. And so that's the basics of cognitive behavioral techniques is the ability to stop and go, what thoughts am I thinking that's creating my inaction or action, right, of a different kind that's not getting me the results that I want, and taking complete ownership of your mindset and your circumstance. That's where I start every time with kids.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so good. And Joey, like, it's a funny thing because I've been married for 25 years almost, right? We're going on it in like a couple
Congrats,
weeks or whatever.
congrats.
Yeah, thank you. And I remember it was probably year 2 or 3, and my wife and I had this really hard time at that point in time. And my mom, who's who's always been a really good communicator and um really good at being neutral and fair. When she would speak to me, she would speak to me regarding what I can control, right? And I'm over there going, well, but she blah, blah, she blah, 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 right? And she's like, no,
Uh-huh.
Daniel, I'm talking to you. You can't control her. You can only control you. And when she's speaking to her, she does the same thing to her, right? And in some sense it felt kind of frustrating at the time because it was like, but but I know there's an injustice that she's doing, and you're not addressing that, you're only addressing me. But what about the injustice, right? And it was so easy to get hung up on the injustice and lose sight. I'll just say I didn't understand really what she was saying, if I'm being honest. um and it's only been these last few years of my life, 25 years later, that it's really, really hit home what it means to own only the things that you can actually control, like in the stoic sense, right? In this, like I've been, I've been
I
really,
was just looking up Marcus Aurelius's quote because I was going to say it and I
yeah,
wanted to say it right. He's the classic Stoic, right? He says, "Choose
yeah.
not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel
Mm.
harmed, and you haven't been."
Yes, yes, that's so
Yeah,
good. Yeah, and so I've been caught up in that kind of thinking, and it's been really weird because what my mom said, and maybe what you're saying right now, can make a lot of sense to us in a sense. And yet I didn't know how to apply that to my life still to a degree, right? Like I knew she was right, but I didn't understand that when I was allowing my wife to trigger me, or blaming this thing over here, or whatever it was, that I was actually putting myself into the victim role and giving them power over my feelings and my thoughts instead of me taking ownership. I can't control what they do. I can only control how I respond to things that I can't control, right? And here I was allowing what they're doing, whoever it is, not just my wife, but whatever, whoever, the guy who cut me off on the freeway or whatever, and allowing them to actually live rent free in my head in a sense. And like, I'm their little puppet. They're playing my strings, and I'm giving them all that power. That was a hard thing for me to learn.
yeah. But that was probably a life-changing moment, I imagine.
Big time, big
Yeah,
time.
and it's such a powerful thing to to recognize. And your kids, for you listeners, won't get it the first time. But if you adopt that view on life yourself, then you'll stop sending messages on accident to your kids that things are other people's fault. Oh, did he make you feel bad? I'm sorry that makes you, right? Instead, and this is a tiny change, oh, I'm sorry you're choosing to feel that way. And they won't like it, just like you don't like it when your mom was saying that. Oh, I'm sorry you're choosing to feel that way. Let's talk about it, right? And you can still show empathy and all the other things. But when we stop messaging that, yeah, dude, sometimes things are just out of your power, some things are just out of your control. And we start messaging, dude, circumstances are just circumstances. You have the freedom to choose your response in any circumstance. And that's a Viktor Frankl quote, loosely quoted, right? But for those who don't know Viktor Frankl, look him up. Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor, and he said they can take everything from us but the last of our human freedoms, which is the ability to choose our own attitude in any circumstance. Again, roughly quoting. But and that's powerful stuff. And when a teen gets that, when it clicks for a teen, they're like, wait a minute, yeah. Then they start handling life way differently.
Yeah,
In a much better way. Their relationships get better. Their anger or emotions just come under control
yeah,
because they're realizing that their anger and emotions isn't coming from other people. It's
yeah,
coming from inside, right?
mhm,
Like that scary movie, the call's coming from inside the house,
yeah,
right? That's where your emotions are coming from. It's not coming from brother or sister or mom or dad or your weight or your abilities or lack of abilities, whatever it is,
yeah.
right? And that is important for kids to learn.
Yeah, that's so good. It makes me think of this line in I think it's just like the first Star, episode 4, A New Hope or whatever of Star Wars, when Obi-Wan says to Darth Vader, "If you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you can even imagine." Because in a sense, it's like, hey, you can
Uh,
do all that stuff to me, but I'm not gonna let it affect me. It's not gonna stop me. You know what I mean? There's something powerful in everything you're saying about that self ownership, where you finally just say, you know what? That's it. You're not going to get to play my strings anymore. I'm calling the shots here, and
yeah.
I get to decide my direction, my aim, how I carry myself, how I react to things. It's like that moment where he says, "You strike me down, you'll make me more." I love that. Is something very powerful about that.
Yeah. Read the book Anti-Fragile if you haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
But that's what he talks about. Nassim Nicholas Taleb. He talks about when we get struck down, right, or we're under pressure, that's the time that we can grow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I teach it when it comes to becoming bully proof,
Mm-hmm.
right? This was something that I teach. I'm very passionate about it. I was bullied in middle school, and I realized that we're all trying to change, or we're all trying to solve bullying, the wrong way. And it's always by trying to stop the bully,
That's
right?
so good.
Yes. Yeah, we got to
That's
stop
so
the
good.
bully. Guys, this is a bully-free
Yeah.
zone. It's kindness
Yeah.
week this week at the public schools, right? Or inspire a bystander, right? If you see something, say something. Both of those tactics take the power out of the target, right? So the target is the kid who's the bullying is being focused on.
Yeah.
And saying, no, no, you got to wait for the bullies to repent, right, and change their ways, or you have to wait for somebody around you to step in and be your hero. Those are the two most like disempowering methods to try to stop bullying. It doesn't mean we don't try to do it those ways, sure, but do it like don't focus on that. The most important way to stop bullying is to help every kid become bully proof.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you say. And here to tie it in, this is how parents would do it. When a parent's like, right, how do I help my kid become bully proof? This is what I do when I'm coaching kids. They say, they're calling me a moonhead, which is what they called me, right? So I'm just using what they call me because of the size of my head, my pointy chin, my bald, or I guess I wasn't bald as a kid, but yeah, the giant forehead. Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
right. You're like, yes,
I'm
right,
rocking that too. Yeah.
yeah, and I look like this guy, right, from the McDonald's commercial. He's called
Oh,
Mac Tonight,
I gotcha.
right? Yeah, and
I
so kids
gotcha.
are like, "Oh, dude, Moonhead," right? And
Yeah.
so if I was coaching a kid, and let's just say hypothetically the kid is being called Moonhead, and I ask them this question, and they hate it because I go, "Okay, well, what's wrong with them calling you Moonhead?" And they're like, "They're calling me Moonhead, Joey, and I don't like it."
Yeah.
And I go, "Yeah, but you like, why don't you like it?" They're like, because they're making fun of me, right? And notice they just keep kind of putting it either on them, on the other person, or just being like, well, and I don't like it. I wish there was, I want them to stop. But when I ever get the kid into kind of a metaphorical corner about it, I'm like, yeah, but really though, what's wrong with it? They're saying it. Like, are they hurting you? If so, that's a different conversation. No, they're not hurting me with, but well, then like, people are laughing at me. I go, oh, what's wrong with that? That is what's wrong, Joey. They're laughing. I'm like, no, that's the circumstance. Other kids are laughing. Other kids are saying they're calling you Moonhead. But what's wrong with it? And they go, it makes me feel small. And it's always, you have to admit, it makes me feel small or less than, or people won't want to be my friend. Or now we can work. Now we can work on that because that's where things are going wrong. Would I love it if the kids stopped calling you Moonhead? That'd be great. Yeah. I mean, hearing that you don't like it, it would be great. They're not going to stop, right? And if these ones stop, somebody else is going to make up some other name or say something in the future. We don't need to stop them. What we need to realize is what's wrong with it. And what's wrong with it is our interpretation of us believing their story, because their story isn't my head looks like a moon. Their story is this guy looks funny and therefore is less than other people or is less than us. And if that's their inherent story, which it always isn't the inherent story of the bully, sometimes bullies just want to make people laugh. But if we believe that story and go, I'm just worse than other people, I'm less than other people, which is what I started to believe. I'm disfigured. Why would anybody want to talk to me or be friends with me? Because I'm disfigured and I look so hideous, right? Like that was, I just look so strange. And therefore, people won't like me. None of that was true. None of that at all. But that's where my brain was. And that's where I like to get the kid to and go, so what's the thing that's wrong with them calling you Moonhead is that you choose to think that you're less valuable because that's happening. I see. Well, do you see where it's going wrong? It's not going wrong with what they're saying, it's going wrong in your head. And I've coached so many kids on this to just go, what's wrong with being Moonhead or Horse Girl, right? Or Beaver, or because of the big front teeth or whatever, or this or that. Like, what's wrong with that? Have you ever thought of just going, yeah, guys, I'm Moonhead, which is how I ended up solving it in
Mm.
seventh grade. They were like, I just decided to think this. Yeah, I do have a big head and I'm still freaking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that changed how I responded. And when they were like, what's up, Moonhead? I just go, what's up, guys? You guys want a Big Mac tonight? Anybody?
Yeah.
And eventually it was like them going, oh, dude, that kid's crazy. He's fun. That's a funny kid. Get out of here, Moonhead. Because they're
Yeah.
older kids. And I was like, all right, bye. And then and I wasn't crying myself to sleep at night in the fetal position afterwards either,
Yep.
right? Because I truly believed I'm still awesome.
Yep.
And that is anti-fragile. That is being struck down and becoming more powerful than anybody could ever imagine.
Yeah, so good. Oh, that's so good. Okay, so again, I'm looking at the clock. We're running out of time, Joey, and I could, oh my gosh, I would love to hear you talk all day long.
Yeah.
What I do want to do is one of the things that I know of in the homeschool world, there's a lot of parents out there that hear the word curriculum and they recoil, right? It's just like, kind of similar to what I was saying earlier, like, hey, don't copy the schools, like tap into what makes you have natural advantages as a homeschooler, right? And if you're going to
Right.
just copy everything they're doing, you're really like, disempowering yourself as a homeschooling parent in terms of the environment and the opportunities and the experiences that you're giving your child and how you're helping, kind of like light that fire or whatever in them.
Mhm.
Well, and I don't necessarily agree with them on this. They'll look at it and be like, hey, curriculum, it boxes a kid in. I want my kid to not be boxed in. I want my kid to try different things and do different things and not sit there, spending countless hours a day just
Checking
following.
boxes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so, but you're telling me you got a curriculum, Joey. So what do
Yes.
we do?
My curriculum is the most anti-curriculum curriculum that is ever curriculum. Um, and so I create a sidekick to hero. It's my I call it when I'm at these conventions. I say it's a virtual curriculum and community that teaches confidence and productivity to teens 11 and up. Right? That's kind of the short pitch. And so for those who are like, oh, I don't like curriculum. Well, then let's go into what it really is. It's a curriculum because it's a set of videos. It's a collection of videos, like hundreds of videos. Um, and it's more akin to like YouTube and a video game had a baby. And that baby is teaching your kids cognitive behavioral skills. That's really what Sidekick to Hero is like because I had it built from the ground up. It cost me uber amounts of dollars to build this from the ground up. And I remember colleagues at the time were like, "Oh, Joey, there's so many other things out there that already exist. You can just put your videos on there." And I'm like, "No, it looks too much like school. I'm not doing that. Looks too much like school. It has to look like it's not school. It has to look like something that a kid would want to spend time on anyway." And so, I mean, if people go to the website, sidekicktohero.com, they'll see right away it doesn't look like school or a curriculum. And it's even a self paced, choose your own adventure curriculum. New content's being posted every week. New foundational courses are being put in there, but the foundational courses are in 4 separate areas. Because when I was coaching kids for 6 years, I realized that all their problems fall into 4 areas. I call them the hero arenas: headspace, emotions, relationships, and objectives, which spell out hero. Headspace is how they think, emotions are how they feel, relationships are how they interact with others, and objectives is how they interact with their goals and dreams, entrepreneurship, and things like that. And so they can pick any one of those to start in. And the videos that I make are short and funny and teach one concept and then sends them out into the real world to go complete a challenge. That's where they will spend the majority of time in Sidekick to Hero, is in the real world. My videos, 5 to 10 minutes long. They're funny. My background, I was a Disneyland comedian and performer for a space of 9 years. It was great. I'm a professional improv comedian and storyteller. So my videos are awesome. And they're short, and kids spend, I always tell parents, are like, well, how long do they have to spend in it? I'm like, 30 minutes a week, right? That's pretty much it because
Oh,
they check in 2 or 3 times, they watch some of the short videos, but then the videos give them a challenge to go do in real life. And I don't want them to binge anything. I don't want them to just go on to the next one without doing the challenge. So they are meant to go out and do a challenge, which is, all right, go back to your homeschooling, however, whatever you're working on, go back to hang out with co-op, go to your job, whatever it is, start your business as you're thinking about what I've taught you, and then come back and they can do a self-reflective journal entry on how applying the skill went. And so it's meant to be a video game where there's no video game in it. It's just a collection of videos of courses. But if it were a video game, uh, your child is the main character and they play the game in real life. They just get training and quests in Sidekick to Hero.
yeah, it's really good. So I think, man, I mean, I feel like you nailed that as far as my question there. But I do want to know from the parent side of things. So, as a parent, one of the things that okay, I've been homeschooling for 20 years. When I started, I was a total bozo. I'm just being like serious with it. I was 24 and I pretty much just want to play video games all day and just give my kids hugs. I mean, that was all I want to do. And
Nice.
I'm being honest, everybody. It's just how it was. But my kids are amazing. So I'm glad to announce they are amazing. And
You didn't ruin them?
I
Yeah.
didn't ruin them. I didn't. I
Okay.
actually didn't ruin them. As hard as I tried.
Yeah.
But okay. One of the things about being in that position as a homeschool parent is a lot of times you feel inadequate, unequipped, overwhelmed, and just this overall sense that I don't know if I have the patience for this. I don't know if I can go along for the ride with my child's personal growth journey. How can I because these skills that Joey's talking about, I don't even have these. I have a fixed mindset.
Most adults don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm afraid to fail. I have nothing but self. I don't even I sleep 4 hours a night because I have all this anxiety and I feel like I'm not accomplishing anything in my life. And uh, how am I going to be any use to my kid in this journey? So, what would you say to a parent who's thinking something like that?
All right, first parent, recognize that all of that are sidekick thoughts. So those are your stories you just kind of strung together, all these limiting beliefs and self-judgment. Um, this is the most important thing your kid can learn. And it's also a lot easier than people think. The thought of something is always 100 times scarier than the actual something, than actually doing it. And it's all about being intentional. And often when we have those fear-based thoughts, it's because we're not being intentional or as intentional as we'd like to be. So with those parents, I always say, look, if you sign your kid up, you also have access to the curriculum as well. There's a parent mode that parents can sign in through and they can kind of watch the stuff. The stuff is short. When someone tells me they don't have enough time to do something, I say, well, that's not a fact. That's a thought, and it seems to be a sidekick thought because it's stopping you from doing something you want to do. And these are for parents who are already like, well, I want to do this, Joey. It's just, I go, hold on. As a coach, whenever I hear my clients say, I want to do X, but I can't, my ears perk up. And I go, all right, let's find the thought that's stopping you. So you do have the time, especially for something like this. The videos are 5 to 10 minutes long. You have the time to watch some of the videos. Your team definitely has the time to watch some of the of the videos. And by just going, hey, look, I don't need to be perfect. I just need to do uh, it once a week. And you'll start to see, like, and this is where we get into Atomic Habits, which is a great book as well. And I teach that in Sidekick to Hero. Um, Approaching things and making it attractive, making it doable, right? Making it obvious. Those are all things you can do. Like this can be done. Plus, it's going to multiply all the other skills that you and your team have. It's
Mm.
going to make life easier. And so I always tell people if you want to keep spinning in all those self destructive sidekick thoughts and not pursue the growth and keep sleeping for 4 hours a night, because of all the stress and all the, and your fixed mindset, don't do sidekick to hero, right? If that's what you want to do. But if you want life to get easier and you want to get more clarity on relationships and objectives and goals and all that is self confidence, then try it out.
Yeah, good. So we got 4 minutes. And
Yeah.
Joey, I'm telling you, I feel like everyone's getting robbed of not getting more time to listen to you.
You're too
What I
kind.
want to do though is I just want to kind of give you the floor and say, is there anything that you'd like to kind of make sure that any final thoughts or anything that you want to maybe we didn't cover or whatever? Because I know for me, I got a million questions, so I'm sure there's a lot of things, but on your end, is there anything A that you want to say as a final thought, and B, I want you to also tell people where they can find you. I know you said your website, if there's any other sources, but any final thoughts that you got?
Yeah, yeah. So first I'll do the where they can find me. So go check out sidekicktohero.com. You can start a 2 week free trial. and see if your kid is into it, see if you're into it. Ultimately, if you're into it and your kid's not, I say treat it like math, right? Most homeschool parents are like, look, I know you're not into it, sweetie, but you got to do math. So just do it, right? It's the same thing. This is way more important than math. So go check that out. I do have a podcast for teens and tweens called Secrets for an Awesome Life. And so you can go check that out. They're short uh, episodes that teach a lot of the things I talked about here and more. But as far as my final thought goes, is this: your teen was born to be the hero of their own story. They're the only one that can rise up to change the end of their story. They're the only one with that power. And sometimes they don't feel like it. Sometimes they feel like the sidekick. If that is your teen, then sidekick to hero, A, is for them, but B, they need to learn it. If not from me, then from somebody. They need to learn that they can rise up. And if you're feeling like you're the sidekick of your own homeschool journey, your own homeschool story as a parent, you also need to realize you are not the sidekick. You are the hero of your story. And you are at the part of the story where, and maybe right now, or maybe tomorrow or next week, but we all get there, that part of the story where we feel like I should just give up, right? It's the moment of the hero's journey. It's the low point. We all get there. That doesn't mean you're not the hero, though. That just means you're about to rise up.
Yeah, so good. Um, Before I say goodbye, because I got 1 minute, is there one book that you would say, hey, this is the book? Is there one
One,
book?
I have so many on my shelf and so many that I teach, but man, right now I'm gonna say oh, How to Own Your Own Mind by
Ooh, okay.
Napoleon Hill.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
That was the one that started it all for me.
Well, okay. Okay. That's awesome. I haven't gotten around to that one. That's really cool.
I
I
know.
just saw that the other day.
I tried to say one that wasn't like a typical book
Yeah.
because I see all the typical ones, but
Yeah.
to me it would be that one, How to Own Your Own Mind.
Okay. Beautiful. Well, Joey, I don't know. I really appreciate having you on the show. I wish I knew this stuff a long time ago. I wish I had led my family in this direction a long time ago, and that my kids, they're on the tail. They're kind of older. My kids, I got 24, 21, 20, and 13. And believe me, they're getting it now because I picked up on it the last few years. And it would have been really nice, I tell you, if I could have gotten my kids into it a lot younger and kind of gone that route. So everybody who's listening, I recommend checking out Joey's website for sure. Someone who's been doing this for 20 years. This is it needs to be way high on the totem pole of priorities. If it's not at the top, it needs to be darn near. And I think a lot of times we invert things. Like same thing with art. Real quick with art, I had someone recently who was helping young kids, learn to fall in love with music, and it's like, yeah, that actually needs to be way higher up on the priority list. And same thing with this. So, and we unfortunately have it kind of backwards. So thank you for your time here, Joey. Really appreciate the time and all your wisdom and letting us peer into your world a little bit. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Hey, everybody. So that's the end of that. Isn't Joey awesome? He's just a brilliant guy. He's got so many great things to say. And I got to tell you firsthand, the more and more I've come to understand the things that Joey's saying, the more empowering they get. And far too often, in my opinion, we put ourselves in that victim role. It's because someone did this, someone did that, blah, 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 blah. And when you put yourself in that victim role, you take all the power away from yourself and you give it to other people. And it's so much better to control the things that you can control, let go of the things that you cannot, and move forward in life that way. Nothing more empowering than that. And so, hope you enjoyed the episode. And until next time, take care.